Conservative Daily Charlie Kirk, Bible Read, and Bob Rant. I keep thinking I've got to get a better title, but that's actually good that I can do it. Now, we're coming from our downstairs office today, but because it's so hot upstairs. It's not a hot day. It's actually a beautiful day outside, but my upstairs office just gets extremely hot. So first up, there's the boy. Where is he? Come here, JJ. Say hello. All right, you'll see him as we go up the stairs. Come on, mate. Up we go. He flies up these stairs, as you can see. Then he'll sit up there and wait. So this is where my upstairs office is. And it's a bit warm up here. Heat just rises in this place. And as always, JJ's there to welcome us. So I thought I'd give you a bit of a shot at the bay. It is absolutely magnificent. So not often you can say about about Melbourne and Port Phillip Bay, but today you can. Barely a cloud in the sky, not too windy, not too wavy. We'll get rid of that for you. And absolutely perfect. Even the flowers are coming out after spring. So this is what we should be getting in Melbourne on a summer's day. We haven't had it much, but I thought I'd give you a bit of a view and show you Melbourne's not as bad as what you think. So we'll get back downstairs. We'll do our little Bible read thing, and then we'll get into our rant. I'll give you another look at my dog flying down the stairs. Come on, mate. He's quite funny. He gets down there pretty quickly. Forgive my mess downstairs, but it's just much cooler. And I don't think you want to be seeing me sweating from my bald forehead all the time. JJ's getting pretty excited about it all. As he does about most things. I wish I could get his enthusiasm. He is amazing. We had a wicket. Have we? Oh, no. Back from the drinks break. Watching the cricket out of the corner of my eye. So if you don't see me do it looking straight at your scrum, which I've been doing a bit lately, that is the reason why. Yes, I'm not in mirror effect anymore. There you go. And the flag should be coming into screen. Just get myself set up here. Oops. And we'll then get into the Bible read. Just sort of had to get you a look at the Melbourne weather and the bay. Absolutely magnificent. So we celebrate the good days in Melbourne. We don't get a chance to do it too often. If you're not watching the cricket, the Aussies are doing very well. Smith's on 86, Green's on 32. They're 424. And they're leading the Poms by, I don't know, I can't read that, about 30 runs. So they're doing well. And even better, Khawaja got out cheap. If you've been following me on X, you know I've been pretty critical of Khawaja after his retirement thing. But in typical Khawaja fashion, and if you're not in the cricket, it doesn't matter, this sort of translate across to the old immigration debate where he was pretty ungrateful for the opportunities this country gave him. But if you had been following it today, he gets out plum. You couldn't get any plum at LBW, and he reviews it straight away. Now, if any other Aussie player had have done that, the commentators would have been all over him. Because it's Khawaja, can't be seen as a racist or a bigot. They don't say a word. Now, he didn't hit it. So if you haven't hit it, there's no way you should review it. Because if you review it, because it was as plummish as plum you can get. Anyone who's played cricket, when you plumb LBW, you know when you plumb LBW. It's hit him just above the ankle in line with middle and leg. He was getting, the stumps were going flying if it hadn't hit his pads. So you just don't take, obviously you don't take a review, you're out. Because if you take that review, the next batsman who come in, if they get a dicey decision, they may not have a review left to, appeal that decision. But in typical Khawaja fashion, because it's all about Usman, bang, straight away, calls the review. Didn't even consult with Steve Smith at the other end, just called it. And sure enough, the review just said absolutely plumb. Now, while that's pathetic, it really is pathetic. We've come to expect that from Usman Khawaja. That's the sort of person he is. But what really makes me cringe a lot, and here's the bigger problem in Australia. Sorry, I've got to rant before the Bible read. Just because I was watching the cricket, not one of those commentators called him out for it. If that had been Dave Warner, Steve Smith, even Travis Head, the flavour of the month, any other Australian batsman, they would have ripped in. the commentary because they always do. But because it's Usman Khawaja, they're not going to rip in. It's just pathetic. And that is a sign of our society as a whole. Yesterday, you had all the anarchist protesters, the ones that were wearing the Palestinian keffiyehs last week and the Palestinian flags. Well, they've now got the Venezuelan ones on. And the media say nothing. They barely bring it up. I thought when all these marches banned, but Drew Pavlo, who I'm not a huge fan of. I follow some of the things. Some of the things he says I agree. Some of the things he doesn't. But he went up there to cheer on the USA. Well, if they've got a chance to protest on behalf of Maduro, a violent dictator, a piece of shit, surely Drew Pavlo can go in there and chant USA, USA. What happened? Pavlo got arrested and taken away, and the protesters were allowed to go. It's a double standard. It's been a double standard in Australia for so long. That's what's pathetic. That is what people like me get pissed off about, and what these people, Bharat, the commentator, the Indian commentator, doesn't understand. He thinks he understands Aussie culture. He obviously has no idea. He thinks we're racist. No, it's not. If anything we're racist about, it's attitude. Anyway, enough of that. I've kicked off the episode with a good old rant. So time to get into the Bible read. My goodness. May God forgive me. I went in a different order. They're back pint batting. So anyway, it should be a short one, hopefully today, because I've got the podcast tonight, so you can join me then. I'll have a lot more to say. So a prayer for rescue, Psalm 6, 1 through 6. We're in the Old Testament. The psalmist pours out of his troubled heart to the Lord, whom he trusts completely, even though he's grief-stricken and exhausted. Lord, don't be angry and rebuke me. Don't punish me in your anger. I am worn out. O Lord, have pity on me. Give me strength. I am completely exhausted and my whole being is deeply troubled. How long, O Lord, will you wait to help me? Come and save me, Lord. In your mercy, rescue me from death. In the world of the dead, you are not remembered. No one can praise you there. I am worn with grief. Every night my bed is damp from my weeping. My pillow is soaked with tears. That's pretty depressing. Look, there is one thing I've always found, and I know you don't even have to be a Christian. You can be an atheist as far as I'm concerned. One thing, and especially for you younger ones, if you do, one thing I've found out, and I never ever used to believe this, but the more I've got into it, the more it helps, is your life can wear you down a little bit. Whether you're getting in arguments like I do here on X, or whether it's something at work or everything's not working, the one thing I've found that gives me a little bit of peace and time for reflection, if nothing else, just time for reflection, we all need that, is actually going to Mass. I actually now get to Mass early for me, so I've got 15 minutes where I can just sit there, be quiet, and have my prayer with God. I also sit there a lot of the time, 15 minutes afterwards, because in a church, it's just magnificent. You just don't, there's no phones, there's nothing. You can sit there, it's quiet, everyone's respectful, everyone's considerate of everybody else's positions. And if you want to sit there and pray, no one's going to bother you. And you don't even have to be praying. You can just be thinking about life and where you are at the moment. I just find it a really calming way to finish off your week and get ready, recharge your batteries into the next week. I remember years ago when I was homeless, and I was intentionally homeless, so you don't have to be feeling bad for me. It wasn't like some people have been forced into homelessness. I did have one episode of that. But, there was one period I just took 3 months off from renting so I could save a few bucks. There was no one but me in the car. I put everything into storage and I lived out the back of my car. Now, when I say I lived out the back of my car, I got a big Prado Land Cruiser, so I can easily fold down the seats and sleep in the back of the car, no problem. So I just thought, well, let's trial this for 3 months. So I did. And it was actually one of the best times of my life. I loved it. And if I ever need to do it again, I will. Who knows? But at that stage, for example, I didn't have a dog. And that would be terribly difficult with a dog or a family or whatever. But when it's just you can do just about anything. And now, I wouldn't recommend going out in the streets and sleeping there at all, at least with the car nor a car. I mean, this one I could lay out a mini mattress and some pillows and blankets in the back of the Prado and get a good night's sleep, no problem. Found out where I could go shower, no issues. But then during the day, I had to figure out what to do. It was the most productive time of my life. I would go down to the library, I'd get some things done. And another thing I did a lot was when I had some downtime and I wanted to do something, it sounds really cheap, but going to church cost you nothing. So a lot of time I'd go to church. And on my Sundays, I didn't have anything to do. And I just thought one thing that I found really interesting is I would actually go to 3 masses over a weekend. And I'd deliberately pick a different parish so I could hear from a different priest to find out whether the message was a little bit different. And interestingly, it was, depending on the personality of your priest. Sometimes it was boring, sometimes it was invigorating, sometimes it was informative. So it was interesting how the different masses and the different way they preached was different depending on which priest was in charge of the mass. I just found it fascinating. And again, it just gave me some time for reflection when I needed it the most. So if you're ever looking for it, like in that Bible, you can do that at home. You can do that at mass. You can just find 15 minutes to yourself and just turn everything off. I remember Charlie Kirk used to say, and they use this now, Charlie Kirk, before he got assassinated, used to call, I think it's the Jewish term on the Saturdays, where they just, that's their day to dedicate to God and their family. So they switch everything off. They don't do sport. They don't do anything. Now, I'm not saying do that, but Charlie Kirk, I think they call it Shabbat. I could be totally wrong in the Jewish faith. And that's where they just stay at home and they have that quiet day of rest. And Charlie Kirk lived by that. And he would go home to his wife, Eureka, and the kids and say, Happy Shabbat. Now, Candace Owens and those put that down. Well, he actually talked about it when he was alive. I mean, I followed Charlie quite extensively. But it was similar to that sort of thing. He just turned off all the phones, turned off the TV, and he spent one day of the week entirely with his family where he could reflect and recharge his batteries for the next week. I think that's if you can do that, that is a really healthy habit to get into. I've gone away from it a little bit in the last 3 months. I've started going back into it over the Christmas period when I've had a bit of downtime. I've got to try and get my time management skills up that I can do it all the time. So notice how I look down. I don't know. Even I think when I look at my camera, so I'm looking at my camera and my eyes are still looking down and right. I don't get that. Maybe it's with the angle of the, whatever. I got to not let it bother me so much. It just bothers the crap out of me. If you followed me the last couple of days, you would have seen me getting annoyed by it. But there's far more many things to annoy me. First up, it's come out that Elbow and his mob, I can't remember exactly what they did. Well, let's actually have a look at it. I'll get our share screen. Elbow and his mob defunded some terrorist defensive group in the AFP in the past week. So let's have a look at that Chrome tab. Do I have? I'm not logged in. I'll get logged in. Sorry. And this is after it's also been discovered that he's also over the last 12 months given something like $27 million to Islamic centers, many of them which have these hate preachers in them. So, how true that is, but if it is true, if it is actually valid, little wonder he's hiding from a royal commission. In a royal commission, this would all come out. And it would be shown that he and his cabinet, so it's not just Elbow, have reduced the protection for Australians. Here we go. All right. We've got some interesting things here on already. So let's share this tab first. Yeah. They would have reduced the protection for Australians and also increased the capacity for hate speech, if that's true. If that is true and it comes out of commission, I can't see how Elbow and the people directly responsible in his cabinet aren't forced to resign. They should just resign straight away. So Rukshan, love him or hate him. I know some of you who don't like him. I like Rukshan. But anyway, after initially opposing a royal commission into anti-Semitism, have I got this up for you? Yes, I have. In the wake of the Bondi terror attack, sources closest to the Prime Minister Albanese are now indicating to media that he is reconsidering his stance amid mounting public and political pressure. He has forced many of the victims' families to publicly beg and spend their grieving time pleading for common sense from the PM, all while Albanese offered disingenuous excuses. All spot on. Now, as the tables appear to be turning against him in the political sphere, with even former Labor MPs calling him out, he may be changing his tune. It makes you wonder if the only thing he truly cares about is politics and his electoral future. Well, that's obvious. Even in the midst of a national tragedy, what do you think Albo will do? Personally, I don't think Albo in any way, shape or form will call a royal commission. I mean, you can talk for it all you like. I don't think he'll call a royal commission because he's a coward. He knows if he has a royal commission, it'll be the end of his career. He'll be gone. Now, whether his ego can kill it, if his career's ended, well, he's going to walk off into the sunset with a lifetime pension and all that sort of thing, write books and do interviews and still make a fortune. So his life is set up, which is disappointing. I mean, you should be accountable for some errors, but there needs to be a royal commission. And the problem with royal commissions is you've got the government of the day that basically calls it, unless they're, I think you can, and I could be wrong on this, so I'm happy for people to correct me, unless you can force a royal commission through the other people in parliament, which I think you can do. So if like the Teals, the Liberals, the Nationals, One Nation and Greens all got together and said, we've got to have a royal commission, I think they could force that upon the government. But a royal commission can be good, but it is decided, because this is where the government needs to should get on the front foot, because it decides the parameters of where that royal commission can go. So sometimes a royal commission is good, but sometimes it can be disappointing too. So everyone's screaming for it. I agree there needs to be a royal commission, but the parameters of this have to be really specific into what we want. If you don't have anything into immigration, into radical Islam, they're talking about anti-Semitism, but you know where that's going to go. If they just put anti-Semitism out, it'll just go straight to the far right. So they should be looking at anything. How did it happen that we had those people killed by two mad gunmen? What led to that? What part did the government play into it? Is there actually electioneering going on with trying to get certain votes in certain seats where we have large proportions, for example, of the Islamic community? Are they kowtowing to the Islamic community, which is then building dangerous environments for Australians? I think all that is happening. So and that would then come back to hit Albo, Burke, Wong. It comes back on Chris Bowen. There's a whole bunch of them that have large demographics of the Islamic community, but they swear by it. But it should also be broadened. Sorry, and I'm not in this, but do we have electorates that are being inundated with, for example, Indian communities? And that's now a Liberal problem, because there's a number of the people in the Liberal Party that come out and back the, not all of them, so Jacinta Price called it out, but then she got all the New South Wales Liberal MPs coming out because they had large clumps of the Indian community in theirs. We've got to find a way to get away from electorates getting decided by large groups of demographics. You know, at the end of the day, we're all Australians. So I think you've got to look at what sort of organisations are in those electorates that indoctrinate, lobby, bring Indian money or Islamic money into their communities that will go towards policies that favour their demographics. This all should be about Australia, Australia, Australia. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. And if it's not about that, then it should be. I previously would have been against this, but is there scope, and maybe a royal commission or something like that could explore the thing of getting corporate and union. They never talk about union. Corporate and union dollars out of our election cycle. So if any citizen wants to stand, it gets funded, sadly, by the taxpayer. You know, so there has to be funding, but we put it on a more equal keel. And when that does get funded by the taxpayer, then the taxpayer gets input into how those campaigns get decided. So I definitely think there's scope for that on electoral reform. I never used to believe in it because I don't believe in adding to the taxpayer's burden. But maybe in this case, it is one time we have an exemption just to get better. We can't keep having politicians and political parties getting elected owing favours to overseas groups. And I don't care where they come from. There's always the slant on the Israeli lobby group. Well, what about the Qatar lobby group? What about the United Arab Emirates? What about India? What about all of these groups that lobby in? It's not just anyone. It should be about the Australian lobby group. What's in the best interest for Australia? So Sorry, just trying to get something up on my phone. Can't get it up. I'll wait for later. So yeah, that's the sort of thing we're looking for. And this guy is such a coward. My second little rant for today is on Trump and Venezuela. All right, Trump and Venezuela. Unbelievable. All right, Trump and Venezuela. All his critics are raising international law. I put up a post today. Haven't even had a chance to look at the responses. But, screw international law.